Typhoon Tino, international name Kalmaegi, has unleashed unprecedented devastation across the central Philippines, with the province of Cebu bearing the brunt of catastrophic flooding that has left at least 21 people dead in the area and a total of 26 fatalities nationwide. The powerful storm, the 20th tropical cyclone to batter the archipelago this year, made multiple landfalls across the Visayas region on Tuesday, November 4, 2025, bringing torrential rain, destructive winds of up to 130 kilometers per hour, and life-threatening storm surges. Cebu Governor Pamela Baricuatro described the situation as unprecedented, noting that while residents prepared for strong winds, it was the rapid rise of floodwaters that proved most deadly. The devastation is heartbreaking, she said in a statement. Most of the victims in Cebu reportedly died from drowning in the fast-rising waters. Shocking videos circulating on social media showed entire towns in Cebu province inundated, with only rooftops visible, and cars, trucks, and even large shipping containers swept along by muddy torrents. Among the confirmed fatalities were 2 children, according to local disaster response officials. In neighboring provinces, a resident in Bohol was killed by a falling tree, while an elderly person in Southern Leyte drowned in their home. The sheer volume of rainfall in a short period overwhelmed the region's drainage systems. The Mactan station in Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu, recorded 183 millimeters of rain in 24 hours, equivalent to almost a month and a half's worth of rain for November. Across the Mactan Channel, cities like Talisay, Mandaue, and Cebu City experienced deep floodwaters that submerged major streets and subdivisions. In response to the escalating crisis, the Cebu City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council declared a state of calamity on July 18th, aiming to expedite emergency operations and the allocation of quick response funds. Tens of thousands of people were forced to evacuate their homes and seek shelter in safer locations. Disaster response agencies, including the Coast Guard and search and rescue units, were placed on high alert. Inter-island ferries and fishing boats were prohibited from sailing in the rough seas, stranding thousands of passengers and cargo drivers in various seaports, while numerous domestic flights were canceled. Adding to the gravity of the situation, a Philippine Air Force helicopter with 5 personnel aboard crashed while en route to help in the typhoon response efforts, with details on their condition still pending. While Typhoon Tino is forecast to move away from the western section of the archipelago into the South China Sea, the cleanup and recovery in Cebu will be a massive undertaking. Authorities are continuing search and rescue efforts, focusing on reaching residents still trapped by floodwaters. The Philippines, which is typically hit by an average of 20 storms annually, is still reeling from previous disasters this year, including Super Typhoon Ragasa and a magnitude 6.9 earthquake in September, compounding the vulnerability of communities in the affected areas. Pagasa continues to warn the public to monitor official advisories as the country braces for potential future weather disturbances in the coming months. Cebu Governor Pamela Baricuatro described the situation as unprecedented, noting that while residents prepared for strong winds, it was the rapid rise of floodwaters that proved most deadly. The devastation is heartbreaking, she said in a statement. Confirmed fatalities in Cebu City alone included 2 infants, a 1-month-old and a 4-month-old, and 2 minors aged 17 and 11, along with 5 others in various barangays. In Mandaue City, Mayor Thadio Wano confirmed 9 deaths, including a young girl, a 48-year-old woman, and several others from different barangays, with ongoing search and rescue operations. Other deaths in the region included a man in Bohol killed by a falling tree. This deluge caused deep floodwaters that submerged major streets and subdivisions in cities like Talisay, Mandaue, and Cebu City. In response to the escalating crisis, the Cebu City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council declared a state of calamity, aiming to expedite emergency operations and the allocation of quick response funds. Massive evacuations were initiated, with over 15,000 residents in Cebu City and more than 102,000 individuals across 33 local government units in the province affected and seeking shelter in evacuation centers. Transportation was severely disrupted. Inter-island ferries and fishing boats were prohibited from sailing in the rough seas, stranding thousands of passengers and cargo drivers in various seaports, while numerous domestic flights were canceled. The typhoon also caused power outages in many areas, with minor damages like uprooted trees and tangled electrical lines reported in some places like Lapu-Lapu City, which luckily reported 0 casualties. Adding to the gravity of the situation, a Philippine Air Force helicopter with 5 personnel aboard crashed while en route to help in the typhoon response efforts in a separate incident in southern Agusan del Sur province. While the specific causes of death were not immediately disclosed, most fatalities across the Cebu province were attributed to drowning in the rapidly rising floodwaters, according to civil defense officials. The primary cause of the devastation was the massive volume of rainfall that overwhelmed the city's drainage systems. The nearby Mactan station in Lapu-Lapu City recorded 183 millimeters of rain in just 24 hours, equivalent to nearly 1.5 months' worth of rain for November. This deluge caused the Butuanan River to overflow, inundating residential areas and major streets. Shocking images and videos circulated on social media showed the extent of the damage, with floodwaters in some areas of Barangay Opeo nearly reaching the second floor of houses. Cars, trucks, and even large shipping containers were seen floating or swept along by the muddy torrents in the flooded streets. In response to the crisis, Mandaue city officials, including personnel from the City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, and City Social Welfare Services, immediately began search, rescue, and relief operations. Massive preemptive evacuations were initiated in riverside and coastal communities as authorities enforced compliance due to the severity of the warnings. Thousands of residents sought shelter in various evacuation centers across barangays like Opeo, Ibabeo Estancia, and Look, where the situation was assessed by the local government. Clearing operations are ongoing throughout the city to remove fallen trees and debris that blocked roads and tangled electrical lines. The local government is urging residents to stay strong and continue cooperating during the recovery efforts. Despite the lower casualty count compared to other areas, the threat posed by the typhoon was taken seriously. The PDRRMO reported that more than 43,000 families, or approximately 45,000 individuals, were evacuated from flood and landslide-prone areas and coastal communities across the province to safer shelters. The typhoon caused power outages in several local government units due to toppled electric lines and fallen trees, but authorities reported that the overall impact on major infrastructure was manageable. All national highways in Bohol remained passable as of early Wednesday morning, and all local government units were in constant contact with the communication center. Tourism activities in key destinations like the Lobak River and Chocolate Hills were temporarily suspended by the provincial government due to the bad weather to ensure public safety. While Bohol experienced significant disruption and one tragic loss, the province escaped the widespread, severe flooding that devastated parts of Cebu and Southern Leyte, where a total of 26 people have died nationwide due to the typhoon's onslaught. Authorities continue to monitor conditions as Typhoon Tino moves westward out of the Philippine area of responsibility. Meanwhile, Southern Leyte, around midnight on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025, bringing typhoon-force winds, torrential rain, and triggering widespread flooding and landslides across the province. The powerful storm, packing maximum sustained winds of 150 kilometers per hour, and gusts up to 205 kilometers per hour shortly after landfall forced the immediate evacuation of thousands of residents from high-risk coastal and mountainous areas. Initial reports from Southern Leyte confirmed at least one fatality, an elderly resident in one of the affected towns who drowned in the fast-rising floodwaters. Local officials also reported one person missing and over 12,000 residents displaced in the municipality of St. Bernard alone, where flooding and landslides were significant concerns. Across the province, disaster response officials had urged more than 150,000 people to move to safer ground ahead of the typhoon's arrival, utilizing mandatory evacuation protocols to minimize the loss of life. The typhoon caused a province-wide power outage as power grids collapsed and electric lines were toppled by fierce winds and falling debris. While the full extent of property damage is still being assessed, reports indicated significant damage to poorly constructed homes and structures, particularly in rural areas, with some Nipa and Cogon houses partially or totally unroofed. The Department of Social Welfare and Development immediately coordinated with local government units in Southern Leyte, dispatching 2,000 family food boxes to the municipality of Sogod as part of the initial relief efforts. As Typhoon Tino continued its westward path across the Visayas region, local authorities in Southern Leyte initiated clearing operations to make roads passable and assess the full impact of the storm. The province remains focused on supporting the affected and displaced households as recovery efforts begin. The local government's emphasis on preemptive evacuation proved crucial in preventing casualties. Mayor Sam Gullas, along with the City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, initiated an emergency response plan that saw the successful evacuation of thousands of residents from low-lying areas and riverbanks. Search and rescue operations focused on Barangays Biasong and Dumlog. Other local government units also provided assistance to Talisay City. Over 1,000 individuals from hundreds of households were housed at the Talisay Sports Academy, which served as an evacuation center. Emergency crews responded to Crocolandia, a wildlife park in Barangay Biasong, after floodwaters partially breached a wall. Staff worked to secure animals and reinforce barriers. Authorities stated there were no confirmed animal escapes, but advised residents to be cautious and report any sightings. Governor Pamela Baricuatro visited Talisay City to assess the damage and discuss rehabilitation and livelihood support with Mayor Gullas. The city faces a significant task in cleaning up and recovering from the typhoon's impact.